Powell and Pressburger's groundbreaking psychological horror, Peeping Tom, is a critique of a society that is characterised as being afflicted with a case of mass scopophilia, an obsession with looking. Mark Lewis is an extreme case of the typical man in this world. The men of Peeping Tom are constantly guided by the pursuit of visual pleasure, even if it's just innocently watching TV, which is how the policeman leading the case is occupying himself when he receives an urgent phone call. This aspect of modern society is exaggerated to present a hyperreality. Peeping Tom is a film about looking and the social and psychological condition around it. This is indicated in the first lines of dialogue. Mark says he works for The Observer.
The Observer.
The aspect of the film that I'm going to discuss is how Peeping Tom has become obsolete from a technological perspective, while simultaneously being extremely ahead of its time in terms of how it presents a society affected with mass scopophilia, and how individuals within such a society can become psychologically warped. The film was made in 1960. On the one hand, the film has become increasingly relevant because screens and cameras and surveillance have become ubiquitous features of contemporary life. Mark Lewis is considered unusual for never going anywhere without his camera. In the age of smartphones, this is not considered unusual at all. It is unusual, or even unthinkable, to be out without your camera now. Additionally, it is not uncommon now for someone's childhood to be constantly filmed, as Mark Lewis's had been for his father's cruel research. Many families with babies are constantly monitoring the house with audio-visual recording devices, and therefore it is no longer as shocking to hear a crying baby remotely through a speaker, which is the film's final revelation. Even posting children's tantrums online has become normalised. More generally, there has been an ongoing debate over decades about the influence of these new, rapidly developing forms of technology on children's psychology, physiology, personality, emotions, and lifestyle habits. Its effects had not been demonstrated beforehand and could only be speculated about until after its introduction, resulting in this technology becoming the contemporary equivalent of asbestos, though even more difficult to remove. Furthermore, the relationship between pornography and violence against women is an even more salient aspect of our society than it was then. The association of the director wanting to get the perfect shot of an actress fainting and the psychosexual condition of Mark Lewis remains a very pertinent comment on society and the film industry, for reasons that the ordinary public are now more aware of in the post-Me Too era. Peeping Tom engages with the anxieties of a society that its directors, Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, did not live long enough to witness. Peeping Tom is like an episode of Black Mirror, but made over 10 years before Charlie Brooker was born. On the other hand, the technological advances and changing social environments since 1960 have made the basis of the film anachronistic. So much of the film pertains to the physical analog media of the time, as well as the absence of digital media. Photographers rarely use photographic film these days. Streets and film studios are monitored by CCTV now, and gentlemen wishing to be discreet do not purchase photographs of nude models from tobacconists anymore. They search online. Physical media is disappearing so much in contemporary life that even pulling a book from a shelf, as Helen does, is becoming increasingly rare in films. In more contemporary cinema, like Parasite or The Big Lebowski, the accomplishments of important men are represented through photographs and framed magazine covers. Nude models no longer need a photographer to capture their image these days. Even the policing methods seen in the film are outdated. DNA testing was first used by the British police in 1986, and their first computer was introduced in 1963. Peeping Tom takes place in a pre-Playbirds Britain. Additionally, changing social norms make some of the female characters' behaviours slightly dated. Helen's continued sympathy for Mark in the final scene provides a very old-fashioned representation of a woman that seems unconvincing now. Helen's character would need to evolve in order to adapt to a post-Playbirds Britain. Despite the themes of the film coming to define many aspects of contemporary life, the story itself would not lend itself readily to a present-day retelling. The typical contrivances used to escape the capabilities of technology would not suffice in this case. There would be too many sudden losses of signal and dead batteries that it would become ridiculous. Peeping Tom is paradoxically stuck in its time while being ahead of its time. I think that if it were to be retold in a contemporary film set in the present, it would need a great deal of creativity and an exercise of resituating the story in a new world. In the same way that The Substance is a sort of retelling of Robert Louis Stevenson's novel The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mark Lewis would need to undergo a process similar to the recalibration of Philip Marlowe in Robert Altman's The Long Goodbye. Elliot Gould's portrayal of the hard-boiled protagonist of Raymond Chandler's novels, most famously played by Humphrey Bogart, was updated to more modern times. Although the next-door neighbours of Gould's Marlowe seem far more adaptable to a post-Playbirds Britain than Mark Lewis's downstairs neighbours in Peeping Tom, directed by Powell and Pressburger and released amid controversy in 1960.